I welcome on the stage Mr. Musso and Mr. Brugnara, researchers at the Osservatorio Conti Pubblici of the Catholic University of Milan, who have made an analysis of our recovery plan and will share with us the challenges in the field of education. Welcome.
So, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Giorgio Musso, and he is Luca Brugnara. We are two economists at Osservatorio sui Conti Pubblici Italiani. That is a research center of Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore. Today we are here to give you some information about the Italian Recovery and Resilience Plan, and more precisely to give you a general overview on what there is inside the Italian plan for education in terms of course, of resources and projects. I would like to start with the three main goals that our plan should achieve. The first one is, of course, to boost the economic recovery after the COVID crisis and to repair the damages that the pandemic has done during the last 18 months. The second goal is to promote the green and digital transformation of our economy. This is actually an important goal since the European Union requires member states to commit fixed share of their plans to both green and digital projects. The last goal is to close the structural gaps that separates Italy from the other European countries. And among these, of course, there is the educational gap. In order to fix these gaps, Italy will have enormous resources in the next years. We are talking about more than 235 billions of euro that must be spent by the 2026. The main part of these resources will come from the European Union, about 119 billions from the Recovery and Resilience Facility and 13 billions from the REACT-EU. These are the two major components of the Next Generation EU program. The remaining resources, instead, 30 millions came from the national budget. According to the Italian plan, the 235 billions of resources will be allocated over 6 missions. And the educational researcher, that is the mission 4, is given the 14% of the total resources, namely a bit more than 30 billions. So let's say something more about the mission 4. This mission is divided into 2 components. The first one contains projects that aim at increasing the quantity and the quality of educational services for all educational levels. For this ends, about 19 billions of the total amount of resources are assigned to this component. The second component instead is mainly focused on research, and in particular, it involves projects that should create more durable and resilient links between academic research and firms. We are talking about, yes, 11 billions that are assigned to this policy, so a bit less than the budget for the first component. Component 1 is the part of mission 4, but actually of the entire plan that is mostly related to education. This component involves 23 projects that are organized in 4 years of interventions. Of these projects, as you can see, 13 are investments and 10 are reforms. the implementation of investments reform has to satisfy a timeline that the Italian government has defined with the European Union. The timeline requires the achievement of intermediate qualitative goals that are called milestones, and the achievement of final quantitative goals that are instead called targets. For the first component of Mission 4, milestones and targets amount to 11 and 19. Yes, so in this slide we have reported some more details about the component 1. So for example, in the first line you can see the first area of intervention, improvements of educational services, that contains 14 projects, half of which are investments and the other half are instead reforms. The implementation of these projects requires the achievement of 7 milestones and 11 targets. In total, the amount of resources needed to implement projects involved in this area is more than 10 billion euro. I don't want to spend so much time on this table. I just want to say that in the first area of intervention, there is one of the most important project, not only of Mission 4, but actually of the entire plan. The guest before us just said something about it, but then Luca will say, my colleague will say something more. Thank you.
So in the remaining time, we'll analyze in greater detail the so-called Nursery plan, which is the largest investment in education and the 7th largest investment overall. It's a policy that dedicates 4.6 billion in order to increase the availability of preschool facilities, and will bring about roughly 260,000 new places that have to be divided within childcare and kindergarten. To this policy, there are 3 main objectives and goals that are to be reached. The first one is to increase the supply of a public good, which are preschool services. But we also have the goal of incentivizing the growth in the fertility rate and improve the participation rate of females in the Italian labor market. And as my colleague said before, one of the overarching elements of this plan is the fact that Italy should, let's say, catch up with our structural divides with respect to the other European countries. And I will now show 2 main divides that have already been discussed briefly in the previous presentation. The first one is childcare coverage rate. The Italian level is way below the target that the European Council set in 2002. And we can see that most of the countries, most of the advanced countries in Europe are above this 33% threshold, but Italy is just slightly above the 26%. And by our own calculation, with the nursery plan at its full implementation, Italy should reach the coverage of roughly 40%, which would exceed the target of 1/3, but would leave us still behind with respect to the most advanced countries. Another specific and explicit goal is to increase fertility rate. And again, we can see that there is a global trend for which all advanced economies have declining fertility rates over time. So this is not only an Italian phenomenon, but surely Italy has witnessed a steeper decline from 1980s onwards. So this is why these are 2 of the elements that have to be, in a sense, fixed with respect to. I think that they cannot hear us.
No,
Okay. Okay, sorry. I was saying this is another element that had to be sort of fixed or adjust, and in which Italy has to surely improve over the next years, and that's why we're investing this amount of resources on this plan. Let's now briefly talk about the conditions that are attached to the nursery plan. There are only two temporal requirements, and the first one is in June 2023. At that time, contracts for constructions of childcare facilities must be awarded, and while the actual creation of new places must be completed by the end of 2025. There is no further detail in terms of requirements that we will have to comply to, and the absence of further requirements raises a question on how Italy will manage to address the within-country disparities that Cristian Morabito talked about also in the previous intervention. We will just show a couple of examples that are closely related to what Cristian Morabito already showed. The first one is, again, the childcare coverage rate. The objective at the European level is 33%. We are slightly above 26%, but we can see that some areas in Italy are already above this requirement, and Southern Italy and Insular Italy are the one lagging behind. So it is extremely crucial that we adjust this disparity, because we can see that with another statistic, that is the female employment rate. It shows very similar trend. There is a strong correlation in the availability of childhood education centers and the female employment rate, which is another explicit objective of this nursery plan. So as it was mentioned before, I will just stress this out because it's extremely crucial. The successful implementation of this plan does not hinge on the formal recognition of the targets and milestones that are stated in our national plan, but it will be truly successful only if we can curb a little bit the structural divide that we are facing right now in our country. Thank you for your attention.